Hi, I'm Sarah from sarahkbrandiscontent.com. I am recording today's video despite all the crazy noise you can probably hear in the background. My neighbour is having doors and windows replaced. I can hear something going on downstairs as well. And one of my cats is behind me tearing into the screen that I use to hide the mess, basically. So if that falls down at some point... but I'm going to record this video regardless because it can't wait for another day. This is really important stuff right now. We are entering a recession, and as small business owners, we really need to go into this prepared to make sure that our cash flow and therefore our businesses do survive in the day-to-day. So this video is number 3 of a 3-part series, 1 and 2, which I will put some links to above and also in the description below. Covered the earlier 2 tips, and they were quite similar to each other. So tips 1 and 2 covered getting referrals and getting repeat clients, and I say they're similar to each other. I'm talking in marketing terms. So in terms of how much time and energy you would need to put into your marketing to get either a referred client or a repeat client, they're both quite similar in the sense that it's a very small amount of effort that you'd actually need to put into getting that sale again. So if you're interested in learning about those, go and check out those previous videos. So for today's tip number 3, drilling noise. So for today's tip number 3, this is a little bit different. You do actually have to do a bit of marketing work here. I'm going to talk about focusing on your warm audience. And before I do, I think it's important for you to understand what I mean when I say warm audience. So I'm going to give you a super brief, in a nutshell, summary here. If you want a bigger, longer explanation of what I mean when I'm talking in terms of sales funnels, cold audience, warm audience, that sort of thing, then head here and watch this video because that will break it down for you in a really simple way. But in a nutshell, and I'm going to give you some dates of how long roughly it takes to get somebody along this journey that we refer to as the sales funnel. And they're very rough dates. This very much varies case by case. So don't take it as a hard and fast rule. It's just a sort of general, give you an idea rule of thumb. But generally, I say to my clients who are typically life coaches, therapists who do one-on-one client work, I typically say to them, for you to get a member of your cold audience to come all the way down the sales funnel, this journey that we take our clients on, and to become your paying customer, give yourself about 6 months for that process to happen. So if you think about business and cash flow and how tight things might be for you right now, coming out of lockdown and into recession, the idea of waiting up to 6 months for somebody to become your client, not viable. That would make you panic, right? So when I talk about getting a warm audience member to convert and become your client, that's shorter. That could be anything from as long as 3 months to tomorrow. So you could get a sale, you could get some cash flow much faster if you focus on your warm audience. So if you've watched my previous explanations, or you just know and understand the general sales funnel journey that customers come on from being a cold audience member, and I'm doing this with my hands because I've got this habit of sort of giving a visual of a funnel to people when I'm explaining it. So imagine a funnel that's wide at the top that contains your cold audience members, and this could be thousands of people. Imagine that not all of them, but maybe about 10% of them funnel down and become your warm audience members, and then again, not all of them, but maybe about 10% again, funnel down to become your paying customers, who might be a one-off customer or they might be a repeat customer, as I talked about in the previous video. If you're focusing more time and energy in terms of your marketing, so like things like promoting your current offers, any discounts you've got going, if you're focusing much more on your warm audience, you're going to get more of those quicker conversions that can take anything from you offering something and somebody converts tomorrow to maybe it takes a couple of months for you to romance them down that journey to becoming finally your customer. Of course, it needs to be said as well that you can't spend 100% of your time there, because if you convert all your warm audience now, don't expect that all of them will become repeat customers. You can't think of these being your only customers forever. What I'm trying to say is don't neglect and completely ignore your cold audience. Apologies if you've heard me say this before, but just for people that don't know or who may have forgotten, your cold audience, so these perhaps thousands of people at the top of your funnel, right at the top, they're likely to be people that follow you on your social media, your Facebook page, your Instagram profile, your YouTube subscribers. These are people that vaguely know of you, and if you spent, 6 months repeatedly sending them content and invitations to become a warmer audience member, over time, that 6 months that we talked about, they might convert. And of those thousands of people, tens of them will ultimately become your customers. So that's time and numbers kind of explained in the shortest way possible. If you think of your warm audience, so you've got thousands in your cold audience, you've got maybe hundreds in your warm audience, and of those, tens will become your customer. Your warm audience are people that haven't converted to be your customer yet, but also they're not just like random profile pictures on Facebook. They've got a bit more contact with you and they've got to know, like, and trust you more. So the most common example is that they've joined your email newsletter list. So they are getting like a weekly or a fortnightly email communication from you. They've trusted you enough to pop their email address. They're interested in what you are sending them. Perhaps they've commented on social media and asked you questions, that sort of thing. That's really how you can think of your warm audience member. So overall, I tend to tell people, like, if we're not in the now, in the before times, before this recession, I would tell people to think about having a bit more of an even split about where they put their time and energy in terms of marketing. So the customers you've got now, keep engaging them, as in keep sending them email newsletters and offers and stuff, and keep thrilling them on social media with your content, because they've been a customer once, they might become a repeat customer, and that's a really low cost in terms of your time and energy. It's a really high return on investment. It's great for your business. Going up a step on that funnel, I tell people, when you're putting your effort into your warm audience, these are people that are going to become your customers in the next few months. Well, 10% of them are. And then if you look at the top of your sales funnel, where those thousands of cold audience members are, these are people that may not be your customer for about 6 months or so. Again, just an average. Don't freak out about that. If that's not right for you, don't worry. But think of the people in your cold audience as like seeds that you plant in your vegetable patch. Not all the seeds are going to be good, but some of them will grow a plant, and then some of those will produce fruit. You've got to keep nurturing those for that to happen. So you can't ignore and forget about your cold audience members. And in the general sense of things, before all this lockdown and upcoming recession was happening, I would tell people to have quite an even split of where you put your effort and your energy in terms of marketing. Right now, it's a little bit different. Where we are coming out of a period of lockdown where you may have had no clients for months, and we're now entering a financial recession where people are going to be a bit more hesitant than they were before to part with their money in the first place. You might find that you're worried about literally paying the bills next month. So whereas before I would tell people to have a fairly even split of time and energy between cold audience and warm, because you want to make sure that you're sowing seeds for 6 months' time, as well as harvesting people that are ready to be harvested now. Sorry for the strange gardening analogy. I've got really into gardening during lockdown. A lot of us have. So that's where that came from. I would tell people previously, have a fairly even split of time and energy. This is like investment for the future, focusing on your cold audience, whereas warm audience is more of an investment in the immediate future. If you are struggling because of the lockdown and the recession, and if you're worried that the next few months are going to be make or break for your business, and you literally need to keep the lights on at home, focus on your warm audience and repeat customers and referrals, as I mentioned in the previous videos, but do put more of that time and energy into your warm audience, because these people will become your next paying clients sooner. Now, with that said, there's a little caveat. Don't completely ignore that cold audience of thousands of Facebook and YouTube followers up the top. Yes, it's true that of the thousands of them, not very many will trickle down the funnel and become your customers. And yes, it's also true that of the ones that do become your customers, it could take them quite a while to get down that funnel, say 6 months or so, just as an average rule of thumb. However, if you get through the recession and you get through the next 3 months, then you don't want to then go, oh, but I've used up my warm audience and everyone's done and I've got no one else in the pipeline. Make sure there are still people coming into the pipeline. Keep nurturing that cold audience. So I'm not saying ignore them. I'm not saying don't nurture them. I'm just saying don't put all of your time and energy up here right now. If you need to literally put food on the table next week, focus more on your warm audience for now to get you through a sticky patch of the next few months, and then start to redress the balance again. So when things aren't so bad, you can start to think of what's a new promotion I can give to my cold audience. Can I give them a new mini free series on something that will give them some great nurturing content, re-engage them, and then perhaps that might encourage them to come a step down the funnel and become my warm audience member. And a typical way to do that is to get them to opt into your email list. So if you were to offer them like a free challenge or a free ebook or something, a free mini course, if that came with an opt-in, so you can have all this free stuff but opt into my email list to get it, you're bringing them down that journey from cold audience to warm, because once they're on your email list, they're warmer. You can nurture them more, send them regular emails, have more of a relationship with them. Anyway, hope the background noise wasn't too bad today, and I hope that all made sense. If there was anything that didn't make sense that you want to ask me about, then feel free, leave me a comment below. I'd be happy to answer it for you. This is going to be a tough period ahead, but I think, to be honest, small business was tough anyway, which means that our small business owners must be pretty tough and resilient, right? So I think if we just stick together, we're smart about it, and we know where to focus our time and effort, we can get through this.